everybody. For those of you who have clicked on this video, you probably saw that interesting looking thumbnail and that very big assertion up front about God hating pedophiles more than hating gay men or gay individuals. And it probably has you very curious. You're probably thinking that this is going to be one of these many atheist rant videos that you find on the internet and belittle Christians and like look at and be smug and say, look at how stupid you are and stuff like that. No. I'm not talking in that direction. I'm actually literally going to show you why the Bible actually says that pedophilia is wrong in place of homosexuality. By the time we get through this video today, I will show you evidence in which I had found. And as a sort of disclosure, I found this out about a decade ago on my own, having a minor understanding in German, world history, and other things. It's one of the biggest discoveries I've ever made in my lifetime, and probably will be the biggest discovery I've ever made in my lifetime. And today I wish to share it with you. So welcome to my humble channel first off, and I hope you enjoy your stay, even if it's just for this one video. So I'm recording this on the 24th, and 2 days ago, June 24th, 2017, and 2 days ago, dating the video, a bill passed in Mississippi, and I was going to cover this topic anyway this week, but this is an interesting sort of like into talking about it. So Mississippi passed a law in their state indicating that businesses and individuals have the right to discriminate or not provide services to people that they have moral quandaries with or religious conflicts with. And of course, so this whole debate between LGBT rights and religious rights has been sort of a contentious thing in the United States history, particularly with Christianity and stuff like that. And obviously, there's reasons for that. So one of the first three things you need to know going into this discovery is the passages which talk against homosexuality in the Bible, which many people are pretty familiar with, but let's go over those three passages right now. So Corinthians 6:9, but it actually is sort of a whole sort of, the passages sort of come together, so it's 9 to 11, but the sort of anti-gay statement is made in 6:9. So it says, "Or do you not know the wrongdoers will not inherit the kingdom of God? Do not be deceived. Neither the sexually immoral, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor men who have sex with men, nor thieves, nor greedy, nor drunkards, nor slanderers, nor swindlers will inherit the kingdom of God." Okay, so that's basically where it says, gay people won't get into heaven. Okay, the other infamous one for the LGBT community is Leviticus 18:22. This one's particularly the one that gets referenced and told to them a lot. It is, "Do not have sexual relations with a man as one does with a woman. That is detestable." All right. So the third one is Leviticus 20:13, which is similar to 18:22. 18:22. "So if a man has sexual relations with a man as one does with a woman, both of them have done what is detestable. They are to be put to death. Their blood will be on their own heads." Okay, very stringent, very black and white. So to people who read those passages and take them to heart, allowing GLBT individuals into their businesses could be problematic, right? I mean, right there it says in the Bible that those things are wrong. Those things are heinous. They shouldn't be involved in those kind of communities or allowing them to feel welcome in their establishments, okay? And that's the debate we've kind of been having. So there are two other things you need to know before you can go down this rabbit hole that I have, dived into. You need to know two things. You need to know the history of Protestantism, which there is a cool little video which does that for me, so I don't have to go into it because it's quite an extensive history. There's a 15-minute video. You click the card above. It talks about Luther and the Protestant Reformation, Crash Course World History. It's a very good channel. I suggest you go watch it. It has a very good stuff where this Seth Green, I believe his name is, goes through a lot of different phases of world history. It talks about world history. Nothing political, nothing or anything like that. I'm actually trying to keep this particular video apolitical as much as I can possibly do. I'm just trying to present facts here or things that I have found. So here you'll learn about Martin Luther. But the short of the gist of it is that this man named Martin Luther founded Protestantism, which is like different from Catholicism, because Catholicism and Christianity used to be one thing. Now, Protestants are people who, serve churches that don't fall under the Pope. In the modern era, this is how we understand Protestantism. But back in Martin Luther's time, in the 1500s, Protestantism didn't exist. He was the one who kind of created Protestantism as an idea and got a lot of flack for it during those times. 500 years ago to this day almost, like literally October of this year is the 500-year anniversary of the 95 Thesis. So any Christians out there who are like, this guy's an atheist, this guy's not legit, dude, I know when the 500-year anniversary of the 95 Thesis is. No, wait. Look, very few atheists are gonna go, oh my gosh, I'm nerding out. That's pretty cool. Like 5 centuries ago, from this day, in like a few months, like that happened, and that's a freaking cool thing. Because I grew up in a Protestant household, and I'm sort of Protestant myself, so it's kind of a cool thing to know that But so this kind of video sort of comes full circle in that way to me, because this is kind of going to be a big sort of video. I think it's going to grow and gain things really fast because it's kind of a big discovery, as I said. So there's a third thing you need to understand. So if you've watched that video and you understand what the Protestant Revolution is, and you understand that Luther created the first common man language Bible in which individuals could read it that didn't understand Latin or Hebrew, then there's a third thing you need to know, which is an old German word which is called Naben. Des Naben Wunderhorn, the boy's magic horn, is a very old thing of like a sort of a book, I guess. This is like I kind of found this word while doing some research, and I won't get into the story of why I was doing this research. I might go into that story in another video if it's requested. But Naben actually means a certain thing, and it means the boy. So, and I asked my German teacher because I really needed to know, does Naben always mean boy, or can it mean a grown man? And she says 9. And I didn't ask her why I was asking. I said, Naben, does it ever mean a grown man? And she says 9, which not the number 9, no, as in the German word for 9, for the German word for no. Not the number 9, but no. So basically, Naben can never mean a grown man or a man who's seen as esteemed as being an adult. Okay? This is very important. So let's not look at this bland thing. Let's Google Naben, and then let's look at some images that pop up. Yeah, so Google agrees. Naben means boy. So what does Naben really mean? Okay, so let's get into the etymology of the word boy, because in order to understand the research that we need to do, we need to understand the history of the word boy. So we have the online etymology dictionary, and we look up the word boy. It means servant, commoner, knave, or boy. So knave is probably where the word Naben derived from in German, or at least the word knave derived in English from German. So Naben means knave. So it can now boy, commoner, or boy. So these are important. The servant and the boy are very important, because what you're going to find is, and this is the next part, is that you can go searching through the German Bible that was translated by Martin Luther back in the 1500s, and you will find these 3 passages. You will read these 3 English passages, and you will find that word Naben there in all 3 of these passages, okay? So that means, and there's no German equivalent of the word man in them either. So does that mean that the Bible's actually saying against the word boy? So I need evidence, right? So it's like, how do you know this? So there's this thing called the Unbound Bible. It's a nice little website that popped up in the recent years. Back when I first made this discovery, this thing didn't exist. I actually had to go looking through. I actually had to Control F the entire Bible and look through this and find out where these words were. Now we have some cool tool here. So we could actually go to the Lutheran, which is the German here. This site's a little fickle, though. That's my critique about it, is that I keep trying to enter things in here, and I hit search, and then sometimes it doesn't respond, and sometimes it decides it wants to respond. But here's the German 1545 version of the Bible. So you can search that. And what I did was I typed in the word Naben, and I put a parenthesis here, because that parenthesis is important, because one of the 3 infamous ones actually doesn't even use the word Naben. It uses a compound word called Nabenschneider, which I'll go over when I get to that particular passage on what that means. But you can search for anything that starts with the word Nabin. So I did that, and I searched through that, and here is the resulting page. So this page here, this short page, is not too many. There's quite a few passages, but they all are here. So and on top of that, the three infamous ones are here. Okay, so let's go back. So this is kind of in order in which it is in the Bible, and that's how it kind of prints them out. So Leviticus 18:22 is in here. Leviticus 20:13 is in here. So those are two out of the three. Literally, the only two passages in Leviticus that use the word Nabin are those two passages that we found in here, 20:13 and Leviticus 18:22. Literally, the only two passages in the entire book of Leviticus has that word in it. Okay, so that's crazy enough. All right. So what about Corinthians 1:6? So that's in the New Testament. So that's going to be found further down. All right. No, that's Old Testament. Jobs is Old Testament. There it is. It's near the bottom. Corinthians 1:6-9. That one too. And this, as I said earlier, it uses the word Nabenschneide. So Nabenschneide means boy. The word Schneide, Shanda? Is it? I don't know. YouTube comments. How do you pronounce the double A? It's been a long time. I used to pronounce it so perfectly when I first made this discovery. My German's a little rusty, all right? But it meant violator. So basically it's saying boy violator. Child molester, I guess would be the modern terminology. Nabenschneide, boy violator, child molester, that kind of a thing. So there's a bunch of words in here. And what you can do as your homework assignment, if you wish to do it, is you can go and do that. You could search for this particular thing, do the percent, and then go through each and every one of those passages and see that there's a pattern. The pattern is this. In the English translated versions, so you can actually search for the American version in here too, so you can look up English versions of all those German passages that I just put up there, and you can read for yourself what they translated to in English. And a majority of them, in fact, probably more than 99%, basically almost every single one of them, except for those three that I've looked up so far, I haven't looked them all up yet, but every single one other than those three didn't have to deal with homosexuality. It had to do with talking about lads, children, boys, or servants. That's it. Nothing about things. So to me, that means that the only conclusion is this. So let's actually do that. So I have some results here from some of the early ones. So let's start with these two chapters in Genesis. Let's just look at these two sections. So we have this passage. All right. So this here's Genesis 18. All right. So it's 18:7. All right. So it talks about Abraham also ran to the herd and took a tender and chance of calf and gave it to the servant and hurried up to prepare it. So in this case, when they're talking of the Nabin, they're talking about his servant. All right, they're talking about Abraham's servant. All right. So Genesis 21. This one actually is quite comprehensive because there's a lot of lines here, and actually they're right next to each other. Genesis 21, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20 all contain the word Nabin. Every single last one of them. So, if it were ever to mean the word man, it's going to happen here, right? Statistically, it's got to happen, right? All right, let's do it. Let's read that one. All right, so 12, right? But God said to Abraham, do not be distressed because of the lad and your maid. Whatever Sarah tells you, listen to her, for through Isaac your descendants shall be named. So, similarly, in this 12 here, das Nabin und der Maid. So maid is this. So here's actually a cool thing about German, which it's actually kind of cool about the language. All nouns are capitalized. Basically, all nouns are proper nouns, and proper nouns in German are actually all capitalized. So basically, the entire word is all caps. So whenever you see God in the German Bible, in this particular Bible, it's like Herr, I think it is, and it's all caps. So every single noun is capitalized. So there's your boy and there's your maid. All right. So that's where that one comes from. So let's see. Let's just go quickly through and highlight where nobbin occurs in each one of these. So nobbin there. All right. There's nobbin there. All right. There's nobbin here. There a nobbin. There a nobbin. Everywhere a nobbin. Nobbin. All right. Nobbin. 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 Here's nobbin there. Okay. All right. So 22. So basically 14 to 20. So basically these passages here should all contain the word boy in some way, shape, or form. So let's read it all together. So Abraham rose early in the morning and took bread and a skin of water and gave it to them to Hagar, putting them on her shoulder, and gave her the boy and sent her away. And she departed and wandered around the wilderness of Beersheba. When the water in the skin was used up, she left the boy under one of the bushes. Then she went and sat down opposite of him, and around about a bowshot away. For she said, "Do not let them see the boy die." And she sat opposite of him and lifted up her voice and wept. God heard the boy, crying, and the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, "What is the matter with you, Hagar? Do not fear, for God has heard the voice of the lad and where he is." So 17 is a 2-4. It says the lad in here and the lad in here. So that means, if my theory is right, and Nabin means boy, and but all this stuff that lines up, that means that this 17 one should have it in here twice. All right. So here's Des Nabin and Des Nabin. It matches. You see where I'm going with this? You kind of get where this is going? The boy, the boy, the boy, the boy, the boy, the man, the boy, the boy, the boy, the boy, the boy, the man. Why is it that all these lines where Nabin exists in the Lutheran version of the Bible, which was originally translated by the founder of Protestantism, indicate that the word Nabin is used in the places where it's talking about young boys or servants? Whereas in the modern English Bible, those particular 3 passages which are talking about quote-unquote homosexuality are not actually talking about that. They're talking about children and young people who would violate children. All right? So let's keep going. Arise lifted the head of the lad and told him in the hand, "I will make a great nation for him." Then God opened her eyes, and she saw the well of the water and filled the skin, and gave the lad a drink. God was with the lad, and he grew, and he lived in the wilderness and became an archer. He lived in the wilderness, and so that was the last one, 20. 20 was the last one, right? Yep. So we learned a story about a boy. Nabin, 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 Nabin. Banamanon. Do. So you can go through and do this with all these passages, and you will find that except for Leviticus 18, Leviticus 20, and this Corinthians passage, that all of these translate to a boy or a servant. And if you find one that doesn't, please put it in the description below, because I only have so much free time in my life. So here's an instance of where that God word is all caps, hair. So this is kind of like, this is a big discovery. This is a big thing. This is pretty huge. This is a big, huge question that now falls upon the religious community. You keep quoting these passages as saying that this is why we have to be mean to homosexuals. This is why we have to like look at this as a sin and as a destructive thing. But yet when I'm reading the original Protestant Bible, the Alpha Protestant Bible, the founding Protestant Bible, the original, the Head of Familias, the very roots of history of the Protestant Bible, I am seeing something completely different than what I'm seeing in the modern American version of the Bible. And these 3 passages. It's crazy. You know, it's like, this is what we've been fighting over this whole time, is a mistranslation? All this guff, all this fuel, all this fire, all this... Now, the most heartening thing about this, but let's look at it positively. The most craziest thing about this is that our society is actually moving in the direction in which this original 1545 version of the Bible is indicating. We really detest pedophiles. We really are active sexual predators who would harm children, right? We actively dislike them. They are really heinous. We consider what they do exceptionally heinous to violate the innocence of a child. That is something that is very, very, very things. So I'll leave you to this with some context as well. And so I'm going to actually do an actual physical search, because this was another thing I kind of found for the Leviticus 18:22 line and its placement, and something that sort of kind of wraps this whole thing together for me. So let's go and look for Leviticus 18. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to an English version of the Bible, and I'm going to not search for anything here. So let me just refresh this page, or just click this. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go for Leviticus, and I'm going to look at the whole of 18. Yeah, if it'll let me. As I said, this thing is kind of fickle. You're going to have to do things sometimes, like multiple times, and then it's like, okay. Yeah, it's not going to be nice. Okay, maybe hitting the search button actually does it. So here's Leviticus 18. It lays down some very stringent rules and stuff like that. So let's look at 22 real quick. So this is the one that is sort of ambiguous. It's sort of the one that's like, why is it translated as should not lie with the boy in the German version, and why, or Naben, don't lie with the woman, the boy as you would with the woman, it's an atrocity. And then be translated here as male, don't lie with a male as a female, it's an atrocity. Let's look at the lines around it. Because the Bible, if you look at the very early parts of this passage, it's like literally incest is wrong, incest is wrong, incest is wrong, incest is wrong, incest is wrong. And it basically lists out the very specific details about which parts, which incestual relationships are wrong, right? It doesn't jump around, it doesn't do anything, it runs on a rail. It doesn't jump from one thing to the other. It goes in order. There's an order to this, all right? So let's look at this. Let's look at this jump that happens between 21, 22, and 23. You shall not give your offspring, child, to offer them to Molech, nor shall you profane the name of God, I am the Lord. So don't give your child to this demon. I think Molech is like some sort of like monetary, like don't sell your child or something like that. I think that's what that part means. Obviously, a more biblical scholar can tell me I'm wrong and actually go kind of into detail of what Molech is. But it has to do with child. It has to do with your relationship with a child, and not to sacrifice them to some demon. All right. So now we go to 22, and it says, "You shall lie with a man with his female is an abomination." And then we go to 23, which is, "Don't have intercourse with any animal to be defiled with it, nor shall any woman stand with an animal to mate with it. Is it a perversion?" So in essence, don't have sex with animals. And so the interesting thing is that these kind of things, like animals and children, have a high etymology connection to them, in both the world and everything else. Like we consider the youth and the animals within our care. They're considered creatures who the adult of us have sort of domain over, but not in the sense that we own them, or like we sort of do own them, but we also are sort of responsible for them. More importantly, we are responsible for the children that we have. We are responsible for the animals that we keep. They look to us for survival. It's not, the relationship is purely that. It is one of survival. If you own a dog, they look to you to survive. If you have a child, they look to you to survive. They look to you to teach them and make sure that they're safe. Then that relationship is very closely tied. So here we have a line in the 21st line that talks about children, and then it jumps to grown men having sex, and then it jumps back to animals. To me, that doesn't make sense from a sort of progressionary standpoint. To me, it would make more sense if Leviticus 22 actually does is about what the German Bible says it is, which is, don't lie with the boy as you would with the woman. It's an atrocity. In other words, don't have sex with kids. All right? Doesn't it? To me, and this is the funny thing about it, is that the Bible is so good about like keeping consistency that a lot of people have equated adult homosexual sex with bestiality, because these two lines are next to each other. So why wouldn't it be like bestiality? I mean, these two lines are right next to each other. No, what they're saying is child molestation is like bestiality. And I think a lot more people can agree on that. And a lot of people do agree on that, and especially psychological scientists who are like, hey, dude, like, they don't have the cognitive function to make such a intimate decision yet, and you're taking advantage of the fact that you understand their psychology better than they do, that you can manipulate them in that shape or form, right? I mean, that's the argument that's made about like why having intercourse with people who are underage is wrong. So when it goes child, animal, it makes more sense to me than going child, adults, or animals. Like, that's jumbled. That's a jump. Like, literally, I mean, like, you have to ask yourself, why not move this 13 line down here? Why not move this line over here? Why not move this line down here? I mean, if we're going to start jumping around from one topic to another topic, why not do it consistently? So that was another angle in which I was like, what I discovered makes more sense. That these lines are actually not about homosexuality, that these lines are about pedophilia and having sex with children. And you might think that, well, we already know that pedophilia is wrong. It doesn't hurt to have the homosexual lines in here. Actually, it does. I read a lot of criticisms online from other religions going, there's nothing wrong. Like, in the Bible, as it is right now in this modern translations, there is nothing wrong about pedophilia or having sex with kids. And the reason that isn't because it's not in there, it's because it was removed inadvertently or advertently, I don't know. I'm not going to make any stipulations or speculations as to why this was translated one way 500 years ago and another way in the modern era. Like, maybe it's this stupid little kid game of telephone that you played in kindergarten where one person says one thing, one person says one thing, and then one person interprets it wrong and they go, well, yeah, we like that one better. Maybe some pedophiles got a hold of the Bible translations and started messing with them. And they were like, well, I don't want my thing to be considered a sin, so let's have it be against people who like things with adult people instead of these young kids, because I like young. There's a lot of speculation that a person can make about this kind of a thing and drive you nuts. All I know is this is what it is. This is what I see. And so, to end this off is that now when we go back to Mississippi and we understand that now we can say, well, biblical things should be able to allow a person to, discriminate against somebody. What happens if somebody uses this video and goes, hey, look, the actual Bible, the Holy Bible of Christianity, actually doesn't say anything about gay men and gay men or women. It actually talks about pedophilia. And you present them with these facts, and then they go, So obviously this video is going to cause a lot of debate. Obviously that there may be some people who are going to find things that may, they're going to find things, they're going to present things, and I welcome that kind of conversation back and forth. Obviously, it's a big ask, it's a big find, and a lot of people are going to be debating and arguing. I'm sure it's probably going to escalate to people who are beyond my commoner sort of understanding of the world. So, like, it might actually even go into higher education institutions and stuff like that. People who study this thing for a living, study the biblical passages for a living, are certainly going to find interest in it. But because it is a big, solid question. Why did Martin Luther, from 500 years ago, translate these 3 Bible passages, which are basically saying that homosexuality is a sin in the English version, translated to have the same words as all these other passages which talk about boys and servants? And by the way, Nobbin actually kind of, in a sick way, of when I'm actually going back to the transition before I close the video off, the word nobbin can mean servant too, right? So which one it is talking about here is not really clear. So maybe it's talking about pedophilia, but maybe it's also saying don't have sex with your servants. And sadly, in those times in which this book was written, there was the idea of human ownership, or ownership of another human of your same age, but still they wouldn't be your peer. You would own them. You would have ownership over them. They were your slave, to be frank. And the word boy, even the word boy, and not just nobbin, but the word boy in English has also been used interchangeably to talk about male servants and young children. And if you don't know that, if you don't know that history, then my suggestion is if you talk with an African American individual, black individual about that, there's a reason that you don't use the word a boy to describe individuals who are black or African American in the United States, and that is because of the history that that word has with slavery. So it's not only Nabben in German that has sort of a dual meaning. And I think, now that I think about it, I think that might be why German actually moved away from the word Nabben being used in normal culture. Like, the word boy is still used as a normal word in English language. But Nabben actually is sort of older German. It's actually Jungen with a J. That's actually the modern use of a younger child. But so it's interesting, and as I said, I hope what this does is open discussion about these particular passages, and allows people both who are in the LGBT community and in the religious community that oppose them, because they're in these passages, to give these passages another look, and to give the history, and to allow the history of these passages to sort of blend in with it, and how our interpretation of these words has such a high impact on those around us, that it is important, it is essential that we get them right. This has been Dan True, and I hope this video has shown something to you, and I hope that you go ahead and leave a comment in the comment section. Hit that like, hit the subscribes. I'm going to get out of here, and I hope you have a great day.